When Jason slammed that envelope on the kitchen counter, I swear the world just froze. He didn't even look at me when he said, "You better pray this test says that baby's mine." Emily! I just stood there, barefoot, holding a mug of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, trying to make sense of how we'd gotten here. The man I married. The man I thought I knew better than anyone on earth. Now looking at me like I was a stranger who'd ruined his life. The envelope sat between us like a live bomb. "DNA results," it said in bold. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. "Jason, you're seriously doing this?" He laughed, low, bitter. "You've been acting weird for months. You flinch when I touch you. You don't even look me in the eye anymore. What am I supposed to think?" I wanted to scream, "Because you changed first." But all that came out was, "You're being ridiculous." He leaned closer, that angry smirk I'd come to dread curling across his face. "Then open it," he said. "Prove me wrong," and I did. With trembling fingers, I tore the seal and pulled out the papers, those sterile white sheets that somehow had the power to destroy a life. When I saw the words, "probability of paternity," 99%, my knees almost buckled with relief. But then Jason's expression didn't change. Not a flicker. That's when he said it. So cold, so quiet I almost missed it. Then maybe I'm not Jason Reed after all. The room went silent. I thought I'd misheard him. But when I looked up, he wasn't joking. His eyes, those calm blue eyes I'd fallen in love with, were empty. And that's the moment I realized this wasn't just about the baby. This was about something so much deeper. Something that was about to destroy everything I thought I knew. Part 2, Normal Life, Setup, Before the Drama. Before Jason turned into someone I couldn't recognize, life was ordinary in the best kind of way. We lived in a small 2-story house just outside Nashville. I taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school, and Jason worked at an auto parts distributor. He'd leave before sunrise, always kissing my forehead before walking out the door, smelling like aftershave and coffee. We'd been married 4 years. We had the kind of marriage people described as solid. Not flashy, not perfect, but safe. We'd cook dinner together, him grilling, me making mashed potatoes and sweet tea. On Fridays, we'd watch reruns of The Office and argue about whether Jim or Dwight was funnier, and when I found out I was pregnant, he cried. He actually cried, holding me close, whispering, "You're gonna be the best mom, Em." Everything after that felt like a dream. Until it didn't. The first change came small. He started working late, missing dinner, acting distant. When I'd ask what was wrong, he'd just sigh. "Work's rough right now, babe." Don't worry, but it wasn't just work. He'd get jumpy whenever his phone buzzed. Once, I caught him deleting messages the second they came through. And one night, when I leaned in to kiss him, he pulled back. Said he was tired. It's funny how love doesn't break all at once. It unravels, one loose thread at a time. I told myself it was just stress, that maybe pregnancy hormones were making me paranoid. But deep down, something didn't sit right. Because Jason wasn't just distant. He was different. His voice had changed. His expressions. The way he told stories, the slang he used, it was like living with a man who'd borrowed my husband's face but forgot how to wear it. I used to joke that he was a budget version of himself. But now, I wish I'd paid closer attention, because nothing about Jason Reed was real. Not his name. Not his past. Not even the marriage certificate we framed above our bed. And I was about to find out the truth the hard way. It started with the mail. One afternoon, I got home from work, belly aching from standing too long at school, and there was this envelope sitting on the porch, brown, crumpled, and marked "Return to Sender." It was addressed to Jason Cole. Cole. Not Reed. At first, I figured it was a mix-up. Maybe the last homeowner or something. But the weird part? It had our address on it, and Jason's work handwriting in the return corner. I remember holding that envelope for a full minute before setting it aside. When Jason got home that night, I asked casually, "Hey, babe, you know anyone named Jason Cole?" He froze mid-step, just for half a second before chuckling it off. "Nah, must be some postal screw-up. You know how they are." I smiled back, but that tiny pause, it sat in my chest like a stone. That weekend, I started noticing more things. His driver's license wasn't in his wallet when I went to grab cash for pizza. His phone had a brand new passcode. He even changed his bank app password. And Jason used to be terrible at remembering passwords. When I asked about it, he just muttered, "Identity theft stuff. They told us at work to be careful." The excuse made sense, until Brooke, my best friend from college, came by one Sunday. She's a paralegal at a family law firm in Nashville, sharp as a tack and a total Southern firecracker. We were having lemonade on the porch when she noticed our marriage certificate hanging inside through the open door. "Girl," she said, squinting, "you used a justice of the peace named Alan Reeves. That's wild. He retired like 10 years ago." I blinked. "No way. We got married 3 years ago." Brooke frowned, stood up, and leaned closer to the certificate. "Emily," she said slowly, "this thing doesn't even have a state seal. Where'd y'all file it?" I felt my stomach twist. "Jason handled all that. I just signed where he told me to." She turned to me, half joking but with that serious lawyer look. "You might want to double-check, hun. Fake marriage certificates are a thing now." We both laughed it off at the time. I didn't want to sound paranoid, but that night I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at that frame on the wall, at our names written in neat cursive, Jason Reed and Emily Parker. The next day, when he left for work, I took it down. And right there, behind the glass, tucked in the back of the frame, was a folded receipt from a hardware store in Atlanta, Georgia. Not Nashville. Not anywhere near where we lived, and the signature at the bottom, Jason Cole. I called Brooke that afternoon. "Hey, you still got access to those marriage records?" She laughed. "Why? You trying to get divorced already?" I hesitated. "No. I just need to check something." She could tell from my tone this wasn't a joke. "Okay, give me the date you got married." I did. And a few hours later, she called back, her voice quiet. "Emily, there's no record of a marriage license for you and Jason Reed. Not in this state. Not in any state around." I felt the air go out of my lungs. "Maybe it's just filed wrong," I said weakly. "Maybe," she replied, though her voice didn't sound convinced. "But you might want to start asking questions. Real ones." That night, when Jason came home, I couldn't even look at him the same. He was humming, setting his keys on the counter. And I noticed his wallet was open just enough for me to see the edge of an ID card. It wasn't a Tennessee license. It said Georgia, and the name printed on it, clear as day, was Jason Cole. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there beside him, watching the shadows crawl across the ceiling, feeling my pulse pound in my throat. Every snore that came out of his mouth made me angrier. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to be one of those women who waited until everything fell apart. I needed answers. Now. When Jason left for work, I went straight to Brooke's office downtown. I didn't even call first. She looked up when I came in, eyes wide when she saw my face. "Girl, you look like you've seen a ghost." Maybe I have. I dropped the marriage certificate, the Atlanta receipt, and a photocopy of that ID I'd managed to sneak a picture of on her desk. She stared at them for a long moment, then muttered, "Jesus, Em, this guy's got 2 identities?" I nodded. My hands were shaking. "I don't even know who I married anymore." Brooke exhaled through her teeth. "Okay, let me make a few calls." Within an hour, she'd dug up more than I was ready for. Jason Reed didn't exist. No social security number, no tax records, no background trail, nothing before 4 years ago. But Jason Cole? That name had a paper trail a mile long, including a fraud case in Georgia that ended with a warrant that had quietly gone cold. I felt my stomach turn. I'd married a man who legally didn't exist. Brooke looked at me with this mix of pity and disbelief. "Emily, you're technically not even married. If he used a fake identity, that license means nothing." My voice cracked. "Then who am I to him?" She sighed. "Someone he needed, maybe to start fresh, maybe to hide." I sat there in silence, tears burning behind my eyes. Everything, our wedding, our anniversaries, the ultrasound photos on the fridge. It all felt like one giant setup. That night, when Jason came home, I was sitting in the living room with a folder full of papers on the coffee table. He froze when he saw them. "What's all this?" "Sit down," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "We need to talk." He frowned, trying to keep his cool. "About what?" "About who the hell you really are." He blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" I grabbed the Georgia ID and slid it toward him. "You tell me." He didn't move. Didn't even breathe. His jaw flexed just once. Then he looked up, eyes narrowing. "Where'd you get that?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "What matters is that the man I married doesn't exist. Jason Reed isn't real." For a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear, maybe. Then it hardened. "You've been snooping through my stuff now?" "Don't turn this on me," I snapped. "Who are you, Jason? Or whatever your name really is." He ran a hand over his face and sat down, muttering, "You wouldn't understand. Try me." He stared at the floor, and when he spoke, his voice was low. "I used to be Jason Cole. I worked in Atlanta. Got mixed up with the wrong people. Business partners who framed me for something I didn't do. Fraud, embezzlement, whatever. I changed my name, moved here to start over. I was gonna tell you one day." My chest tightened. "So you lied about everything. Your job, your family, our marriage license. You let me build a life with someone who doesn't even exist on paper." "I was protecting us," he said. "No, you were protecting yourself." He slammed his hand on the table, making me jump. "I built this life for you, Emily. You think it's easy to just erase your past?" I stared at him, tears spilling over. "I didn't ask you to erase it. I asked you to be honest." That's when his tone changed. His voice got cold again. "You're no saint either. You've been sneaking around, getting people to dig through my life. You want to talk about trust?" And then, as if to twist the knife, and he muttered, "How do I even know that baby's mine?" My jaw dropped. "You're seriously pulling that card right now?" He folded his arms, eyes full of venom. "If you can lie, so can I. Let's get a DNA test. Then we'll see who's been hiding what." That line hit me like a punch. I wanted to scream, but instead I just nodded. "Fine, let's do it." We scheduled the test that week. I thought it'd be the end of the nightmare, but it was just the beginning. Because when the results came, they didn't just expose Jason, they exposed me, too, the day that envelope hit the counter. The same moment you heard me talk about in the beginning. Everything I thought I knew about myself came crashing down. Because those papers didn't just confirm he was the father. They showed that my legal name, the one on my birth certificate, wasn't real either, and suddenly I wasn't even sure who I was. I remember standing there, holding those test results like they were on fire. The paper trembled in my hand, my vision going blurry around the edges. "Emily," Jason said softly, his tone suddenly cautious. "What's wrong?" I looked at him, this man who'd lied about everything, and I almost laughed. "What's wrong?" I said, my voice shaking. "You're asking me what's wrong." He reached for the papers, but I yanked them away. "You want to know something wild, Jason? You're not the only fake in this house." His eyes narrowed. "What the hell does that mean?" I shoved the papers at him. "It means the DNA test came back saying you're the father. But according to these results, my social security number doesn't even match the name on the test. Which means the name I've used my entire life isn't legally mine." He blinked, confused. "You're saying you have a fake identity now?" "I don't know," I shouted. "But I damn sure didn't make it up." I called Brooke immediately. She told me to come down to her office. No questions asked. Jason tried to follow, but I slammed the door in his face. By the time I got there, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely sign my name. Brooke scanned the papers, then frowned. "Emily, this is insane. It says your SSN belongs to someone who died 28 years ago." My stomach dropped. "What?" She nodded, still scrolling through her computer. "Same birth date, same hometown, different name. Somebody filed new identity records when you were a baby. Like a full-on identity reassignment." I felt cold all over. "You're saying I've been living under a fake name my whole life?" "Yeah, which means," she said, looking up, "your marriage isn't legal, your credit history's not real, and technically you don't exist either." I sat there, silent. The room felt like it was spinning. Brooke leaned in. Emily, this isn't some random coincidence. This is deliberate. Someone wanted you off the record. And that's when it hit me. The only person who ever handled my documents as an adult was Jason. When we got married, he insisted on handling the paperwork so I wouldn't stress. When I changed my name after the wedding, he told me he'd already filed it with the clerk. I felt the nausea rise in my throat. Oh my God, he did this, Brooke nodded grimly. We need to prove it. You said he's got a Georgia past, right? Let's dig. We spent hours digging. Old addresses, business records, public databases. Brooke found something in a heartbeat. A birth certificate for an Emily Parker filed in Georgia. Not Tennessee, the real Emily Parker. Deceased, died at 6 months old. And I, the living Emily Parker, had that same ID number. I sat back in my chair, tears stinging my eyes. He stole her identity and gave it to me. Brooke's voice dropped. Why? What would he gain from that? I whispered. To marry someone who couldn't trace him. Someone who technically doesn't exist. She leaned back, jaw tight. Girl, this is next-level criminal. You need to go to the police. I nodded, but something inside me twisted. Not yet. Emily, I'm serious. No, I cut her off. If I go to the cops right now, he'll vanish. That's what men like him do. He's been doing it for years. But if I trap him legally... Her eyes widened. You're gonna play him at his own game. I nodded slowly. Exactly. So I went home and pretended nothing had happened, smiled, cooked dinner, kissed him goodnight, played dumb. Meanwhile, Brooke helped me quietly build a case. Every forged document, every fake address, every identity trail he'd left behind. For weeks, I lived a double life. By day, the sweet wife who forgave her husband's accusations. By night, the woman quietly gathering proof to destroy him. One night, I woke up to him pacing in the living room, whispering into his phone. Yeah, I told her. No, she doesn't know yet. Yeah, I'll have the money by next week. My heart pounded. I recorded the whole thing. The next morning, I sent everything. The ID, the fake certificate, the recording, straight to Detective Hayes at the Nashville PD. He was one of Brooke's contacts. 2 days later, they called me in. Mrs. Parker, Detective Hayes said carefully, your husband, or whatever name he's using, is wanted in 3 states for identity fraud, tax evasion, and marriage scams. I swallowed hard. Marriage scams? He nodded. He's done this before, at least twice. Creates fake paperwork, marries women under a false name, drains their accounts, and disappears. I sat there numb. So I was just another mark. The detective's tone softened. Maybe. But you've given us enough to finally nail him. And that's when I smiled for the first time in weeks. Then let's finish it. I went home, pretending everything was fine, while the police set up surveillance. Jason came in that night with takeout, and this fake smile plastered on his face. I was thinking, he said casually, maybe we should move. Somewhere quiet. Fresh start, I smiled back. That sounds nice. Inside, my stomach turned to steel. Because the next time he tried to run, it wasn't going to be to a new city. It was going to be into a pair of handcuffs. The morning Jason's world came crashing down. The air felt heavy, like it knew what was coming. I was standing in the kitchen, coffee in hand, pretending to scroll my phone when I heard the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway. 2 black SUVs rolled up slow, the kind that makes your heart drop even when you've done nothing wrong. Jason was halfway through tying his shoes. You expecting company? I shrugged. Maybe Brooke's dropping by. He smiled. That slick, fake smile that used to melt me. You two are thicker than thieves. Funny choice of words. A knock hit the door, firm. 3 times. Jason opened it, and the moment he did, everything stopped. Jason Cole? A deep voice said. Nashville Police Department. You're under arrest for fraud, identity theft, and obstruction of justice. Jason froze. What the hell? Before he could finish, 2 officers stepped forward, flipping him around and cuffing his wrists. Hey! Wait a second. He looked back at me, eyes wide with disbelief. Emily, say something! I just stood there, arms crossed, coffee cup steady in my hand. Funny. I said softly. I don't think Emily Parker exists. He blinked, realizing too late that I'd played him. You set me up. No, I said. You set yourself up. The officers let him out the door. He twisted in their grip, shouting, You don't even know who you are! You think you're better than me? You're just a ghost with my last name. The door slammed, cutting him off. And I just stood there. Quiet. Breathing. For the first time in months, I could actually feel air filling my lungs. Later that afternoon, I went down to the courthouse to make a statement. Detective Hayes met me at the steps, tipping his hat. You did good, he said. We got confirmation. His real name's Jason Cole. Been running scams across 3 states for almost a decade. You're the first one who fought back. I nodded, voice low. What happens now? Prosecution will take it from here. You'll have to testify, but don't worry. We've got your back. It felt strange, being part of a legal system I technically wasn't supposed to exist in. Over the next few weeks, the story spread fast. Small-town news, then state level. Man arrested for marrying under fake identity. Reporters parked outside my house for days. Parents at my school whispered behind my back, pretending not to stare. I didn't care. What shocked people most wasn't Jason's lie. It was mine. Or rather theirs. The truth that Emily Parker had been a name borrowed from a dead infant. It made headlines. Wife of con man discovers her own identity was stolen at birth. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who'd built her life on trust and truth, living a life built on lies from day one. I met with a federal investigator later that month. He explained that my identity had been used as part of a larger scheme, a clean slate for people like Jason. They'd found documents showing he'd picked me on purpose because I was off the record. It made me sick, but instead of breaking me, it gave me something else, purpose. I started working with Brooke and her firm, helping other women who'd been conned, tricked, or manipulated into silence. Turns out there were a lot more Jasons out there than I thought. When Jason's trial finally came around, I showed up wearing the same navy blue blazer I wore for my job interviews, the one he once called too serious. He looked smaller somehow, sitting there behind the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, his charm stripped away. When the prosecutor asked me to identify him, I looked him dead in the eyes. That's him, I said calmly. Jason Cole. The man who said he loved me, and the man who taught me how dangerous that word can be. He smirked, still trying to play that same old game. You still don't know who you are, sweetheart. I smiled, just a little. Maybe not, but I sure as hell know who you are. The courtroom went still. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, he didn't even look my way. Outside, reporters crowded around me, shouting questions. Emily, how do you feel? Do you plan to change your name? What's next for you? I paused on the courthouse steps, the Tennessee sun warming my face, and for once, I didn't feel like a ghost. I'm starting over, I said simply, but this time, as whoever I choose to be. Brooke met me by the curb, holding 2 coffees. You did it, girl, she said, handing me one. I smiled. No, we did. And as we walked away, I didn't look back once. A year later, Tennessee spring rolled back in, the kind where the air smells like rain and honeysuckle, and everything feels like it's waking up again. I was living in a little rental house outside Franklin now. Nothing fancy, just a cozy 2-bedroom with creaky floors, a front porch swing, and a yard that actually stayed green. My old house had been sold off. Too many ghosts there. Too many memories of a life that wasn't real. The baby I thought I'd have never made it to this world. Miscarriage at 10 weeks. The doctors said it was one of those things, but part of me always wondered if the stress had something to do with it. Still, that loss, it taught me something I didn't expect. I realized I didn't need to build a family to feel whole. I needed to rebuild myself, so that's what I did. I started seeing a therapist. First time in my life I ever admitted I needed help. She helped me unpack all of it, the lies, the trauma, the betrayal. We talked about identity theft not just as a crime, but as something emotional, spiritual. How people can steal your sense of self if you let them. I also started volunteering with a local women's shelter. I helped women file restraining orders, rebuild credit, and recover from manipulation. Financial, emotional, you name it. Turns out, you can't go through hell like that and not want to light the path for someone else. Brooke and I stayed close. Every Friday night, we'd grab tacos and cheap margaritas and laugh about everything, even the messed up parts. She was my sister by choice, not by blood. You ever think about dating again? She asked one night, teasing. I rolled my eyes. Girl, I'm still trying to trust my own reflection. She laughed, but there was truth in it. I wasn't ready, and maybe I wouldn't be for a while. That was okay. One afternoon, I got a letter in the mail from the Department of Justice. Official letterhead, black ink, all business. Dear Ms. Parker, it read, your testimony was instrumental in securing the conviction of Jason Cole. On behalf of the U.S. government, we thank you for your courage. At the bottom, someone had written a small note in pen. You helped more people than you know. I sat there for a minute, holding that letter, tears rolling down my face. Not from sadness, Morg, from relief. From pride. Because for the first time in forever, I wasn't Emily Parker, the victim. I wasn't Mrs. Jason Reed, I was just me. And I was finally okay with that. One evening that summer, I took a drive to the edge of town, where the sky opens up and the radio static fades. I parked on a hill and watched the sunset bleed orange and gold across the horizon. I whispered to the wind, guess we both survived, huh? The wind didn't answer, but I didn't need it to. Somewhere in the distance, I imagined Jason sitting in a cell, telling stories about the women who fell for him, maybe still trying to charm somebody. But he didn't have my name anymore. He didn't have my story, and he damn sure didn't have my power. I reached into my purse, pulled out a new ID, Emily Coleman. My legal name now, mine alone, not stolen, not borrowed, not fake. I smiled and whispered, nice to meet you, Emily, and as the sun dipped below the trees, I started the engine, rolled the windows down, and drove toward whatever came next. Free, fierce, and finally real. I've shared with you a story that almost broke me. A story about lies, stolen identities, and betrayal that I never saw coming. For years, I believed in the life I had, the husband I married, the future we were building together. But sometimes, the people we love the most aren't who we think they are, and sometimes, even the life we thought was ours isn't. It's hard to explain the feeling of realizing that everything you trusted, everything you held dear, was built on secrets and deception. There's anger, yes. There's heartbreak. But there's also clarity. When the smoke clears, you see the truth. Not just about others, but about yourself. And that's where the real power begins. I learned that our identities aren't just our names on paper. They're the choices we make, the strength we gather when the world tries to define us, and the courage to reclaim what's ours, whether it's our freedom, our voice, or simply the right to stand tall and say, I am real. I am me. After everything, I had a choice. Let the betrayal define me, or let it fuel me. I chose the latter, and I want every woman, every person listening right now, to know. No matter how deep the lies go, no matter how dark the storm, there is a way forward. You can survive it, and you can rise stronger. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of a time someone deceived you, or made you question yourself, or showed you how fragile trust can be, I want to hear from you. Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters. Your experience matters. And here, in this space, we honor it. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Echo of Her regularly. I share real-life stories of betrayal, heartbreak, secrets, and ultimately, strength. Stories that echo the lives we lead, the lessons we learn, and the resilience we carry. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story, because every story has a lesson, and every lesson can change the way you see the world. And yourself. Remember, it's not the lies that define us, it's how we rise after them. So take a deep breath, stand tall, and reclaim your story, because your truth is yours, and it will always echo. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your time with me, And thank you for being brave enough to face these stories with an open heart.